Welcome back from that break. This is an interesting topic. It is cutting across, and yeah, I remember still in my primary school, they were sounding the bell 3 times. The first time, the order was squat. The second time, stand. Then the third time, walk, but very fast, don't run. Running was an abomination, but also walking sluggishly was also an abomination. So you would really be punished for that too. You only walk as a responsible person to class. Now I realize that was a policy, and the moment you enter in school, no one tells you. You'll see everyone doing that, and you have to do it. They'll never tell you why they do it. Mrs. Chintu, you wanted to say something before we went for the break.
Yes, while Mrs. Ddamulira was speaking, I remembered that I have counseled some students, more than one actually, who deliberately choose to go against a rule or a law or a policy of zero tolerance so that they can be expelled. And that will take us, maybe it's a discussion for another day. A parent takes a child to school X because they think that that's where their child will fit. But the child doesn't like it from the onset. And also you must think about the discussions that are held when the kids are together. So they say, let's do this to disobey so that we are expelled and suspended. So we must be mindful of also those tactics. In setting up policies, we must remember that there will be people who will definitely go against it so that they can be removed from the institution where they are not comfortable. But sometimes you need to, like I said, when you punish, you also ensure that they remain within that, within the confines of that institution, so that they can be modeled. We cannot afford to ignore it. It's still, and it's happening a lot these days. Defiance is on the high. The streets show us defiance. The parliament shows us defiance. The people who are in leadership, who are supposed to do the right thing, are not doing the right thing, and they are left scot-free. We are told, and then they don't do what they're supposed to do, and then they remain intact. What kind of a generation are we modeling?
Wow. Still on that, Mrs. Chintu, doesn't it look as if we are creating a prison within a school environment where someone has no liberty to do what they want? They only have to do what you have put in place?
Before I answer that question, this would be my first take. I'd rather you be subjected to that level of imprisonment rather than be enslaved for a lifetime.
Okay.
Remember that. Rather be imprisoned in that kind of state for a while than be enslaved for a lifetime. Because if you are not cultured, if you are not modeled, if your character is not built now, it is going to affect you in the future. You will fight with it the rest of your life. So some of the things that may look like policy, prison, you are tormenting us, you're making us suffer. Tell them it's for a little while. They may not appreciate it, but you and I, and I'm sure my sister there, can say there are so many things we were told when we were children, and we disregarded and did not like them, but have seen them unfold before our eyes in the future. And they play back and say, oh, is that why? Oh, now I understand. And sometimes it's too late to go back and tell your parent or tell your teacher that I'm sorry, I did not understand you then. Now I understand now. So it's better to live within those confines and that environment now as you build your character rather than it enslaving you the rest of your lifetime.
Wow. Mrs. Ddamulira, as a director, you sit with the board, you come up with these policies, not thinking about these learners. So when you now, when you enforce them onto them, they look at you as someone imprisoning them.
Now, the most interesting thing is that for each and every rule that you set, you think about the learner first. You carry the learner's interest first. Because I'll tell you, there is nothing as painful as when you're an adult and you're living in regret and saying, I wish somebody had told me this. What she was saying, that you'd rather have the inconvenience now than be enslaved for a lifetime. Because I'll tell you, if you don't know, you are bound to make so many mistakes. And like, I'll just give you an example of greeting, right? One time, I was at school, and I was on the compound. I was working on the compound. But, you know, as I'm walking maybe to my office or different destinations, I keep greeting the students, and they greet me, you know. So there was this young little boy who didn't greet me. I said, you've passed me without greeting me? And he looked at me like, is that too bad? I could see that his entire body language spoke. What is wrong with you?
Yes.
What is wrong with not greeting you? And I told him, you mean when you wake up in the morning, you never greet mommy and daddy? He even looked more confused. And he said, but at home we don't greet because mommy wakes up very early and leaves, and daddy also wakes up very early and they come back late. So for him, greeting is something that had never
Not part of the agenda.
It's not part of the agenda, and he's not a bad child, isn't it? Now I'm telling him, each time you meet me, you have to say, good morning, madam. And I always tell them that you greet me with respect. But at the back of my mind, I know what that can do for you when you get to the workplace. And every morning you walk in, you don't greet anybody, you walk out, you don't say, you know, people begin to distance from you, thinking that you are an extremely uncultured person. But they don't understand that you have grown up in a space where nobody has ever condemned you, or even judged you, or even guided you,
or even told you
that if you don't greet, it is erroneous. And that's what we are saying. Do not remove the landmarks that were set by your ancestors. It did not matter.
Where is it from?
It is from Proverbs 22, verse 28.
Yes.
It does not matter. There was somebody who was telling me that for us, it didn't matter whether my parent responded or not. In the morning, they would go, kneel at their door and say, good morning, daddy, good morning, mommy. Whether they respond or not. So he grows up knowing that each time I meet somebody in the morning, whether they respond or not, they're not even offended, I have to greet. Now I'm giving you just a basic example where somebody, as an adult, they become labeled, you know? They look at unethical behavior. Their behavior becomes unethical. But not that they're bad people, but nobody has told them that it is not right for them not to greet. So when you're talking about the learners, we're not thinking about the learners. As we grow older, we are a lot more interested in the children that we have nurtured. There is nothing that makes a teacher proud or a parent proud when their child or their student is up there, right? And everybody saying they went to this school. That is the daughter of Mrs. Chitu. And it's not only her who is proud, but society is proud of who they have become. But they don't become out of luck. They become out of hard work. So when we talk about us not thinking about the learners, we are more proud of the adults that they will become. And so we get back and work out the process, how these people are going to become. But I would want to tell you also that there is no rule that is followed conveniently. No. All the rules that you have, do you follow them conveniently? All rules, all laws are inconvenient until you realize that they have built a system around you that has finally made you comfortable. Your mindset has conformed to that system that you realize, oh, okay, it's very easy. It's just like at home, whereby everything seems to be on autopilot. It's because you've created a system, and everybody has accepted the system and has embraced the system. I'll just give an example on Family TV. You have maybe morning devotion.
right?
Yeah.
Every morning you have morning devotion from 7 to 7:30. If you had not lived in a culture of morning devotion, it would be very inconvenient.
Yeah.
But then if your boss insists that when I'm in this morning devotion, the entire place should be in morning devotion. When you get out of family TV and you go to another setting where there's no morning devotion, you begin to hunger for what you knew, isn't it? So when we are building these behavior patterns, we are going to create a hunger for the future, that in the event that these children do not find it there, they'll either build it or people will look up to them like, okay, this is a different child. And people would want to be like them, celebrated people with all the values that we feel that they are worth for anybody to be in society, and they're celebrated for who they have become.
Wow.
I'd like to say something.
Yes, please.
Maybe when we are dishing out, I don't want to call it dishing out, maybe it should be a better word. When we are meting out these policies, we need to help the people who we are giving them to understand that it's for their good. They used to tell us that it was for our good, and it didn't make a lot of sense.
Yes.
But now, our children, the students are more intelligent than we were. For us, there was a time that we grew up when you could not reason with your parent. What they said, you do, full stop. No discussion, nothing. You don't get any time to say, but why? But now you see a 2-year-old asking why. When you tell them, go brush your teeth before you go to bed. Say, but why? One, because maybe they are not seeing you brush your teeth. 2, maybe they are too tired. 3, maybe they are handling something that they consider to be more important. But you help them to understand, like I said, be informed. Now, there is a way in which you need to help these children to understand that these little instructions, laws, regulations, policies are creating a brand. Like I said, I was in China recently, and I met some friends of my daughter, and they said, your daughter said something that has stayed with us. I said, what did she say? That they outlined that there was a situation they were in, and on being questioned, she says, that is not the brand that I have developed. She refused something because it's not the brand that she had developed. And all her friends were very impressed. It was a mature way of answering, but it also helped them to think, what is the brand that you're creating? So when you are telling these children, the students and whatever, tell them that while we are bringing these policies, they're helping you to create a brand. You don't create the brand when you come to family TV. You create a brand before you go. When you're still in the instruction areas, and you continue to develop that brand, but you create it way back. I know that you will agree with me that it's so difficult to develop mannerisms that you did not grow up understanding. It's hard work. That's why I said you can be enslaved. So help them to understand that part of the reason why we are doing what we are doing, why institutions are doing what they're doing, why their parents are doing what they're doing, is that they're creating a brand for them that will last a lifetime. For me, that is very important. Lasting a lifetime. It will carry you, it will take you miles. If we can remember that, then we'll be good to go.
Are there instances where zero tolerance principles have yielded negative results instead of building this positive person that we want to see?
Negative results for an individual or for
for an individual. For example, we are in a school setting. We set these rules and regulations that are supposed to be, but instead of modeling this learner, they instead come out the opposite.
Well, the Bible talks about the shepherd who had 100 sheep. And the 99 were there, but one went astray. Just one went astray. That means that there's a pattern that he had developed with his sheep, and they knew what they were supposed to do. And that one went astray. There will be people who will go away from what you have modeled, what you have set. They may be there. It is your responsibility as a shepherd to draw them back. And maybe I'll bring this here at this point, that as leaders, as instructors, as older people who are nurturing younger people. She said it, I think. You don't need to give up on anybody. Create a second chance. Because God has been a second chance, given us second chances in life, all through. So create a second chance. And when you feel like you've really exhausted all the options, that is when you can, and gently but carefully, let them go. But you follow them up. You don't let them go altogether. You let them go and follow up, because there will be a turning point. There most definitely will be a turning point. This person will want to come back to you and say, thank you for guiding me, although I was wayward. I know a person who went through 6 secondary schools.
6.
For the 6 years that they studied secondary school, they went through 6 secondary schools. They'll try, they dismiss, try again, dismiss. And really, everybody would say, he's wasted, he cannot. But that person has not been wasted. They made a turnaround, they made a comeback, they become very good citizens. Through the 6 years of one institution saying, I can't tolerate this, I'm letting you go, and another, they helped to form and get him back on track. So we shouldn't give up on anybody. But there will be a few, like I said, the shepherd with 99 and 1, there will be a few who will outwardly say, I am not going to follow that. I'm going to be disobedient. Because we are children who, who have been, we were born in sin. And there will be people who will say, I am just going to. Disobedience, it's their cup of tea. They love it.
There we have people in this generation who say violence is their meal. Well, Canon, this reminds me, this now comes to me directly after P7, because I used to admire my brother, my elder brother. He went to secondary school, they were putting on a pair of trousers. Now after P7, they take me to a school where they were putting on shorts. So students used to laugh at me, the ones I was with in primary. Did you repeat P7? Why are you putting on shorts in secondary? So I think at that point, I was determined to do whatever it takes to see that.
You leave that school and you go and wear trousers.
You disobey and are expelled.
Yes, but thank God I didn't. But I mean, for example, if we can take St. Mark's College and Namagoma as an example, have you reached a point and say, for sure, for this particular one, you do not fit to be part of our system, so we let you go? And isn't that a disservice? Who are you sending this person to?
Now, I also, thank you so much, Edwin, for that question. But I also have come to appreciate that certain environments, people flourish in given environments, right? There are people who will flourish when there is a lot of order. There are people who will flourish in their own way when things are just happening, right? Now, it is to have that kind of understanding. If it is zero tolerance, there are strict rules, there are strict what? Many times, like Mrs. Shindra said, the 99 will conform and say, this is who we are. There is always that one sheep, one black sheep, that will say, I thrive in disobedience. And they would want to move away. And this is what I usually tell parents. And we have taught, as managers, we have taught each other to sit down and talk with a parent and inform them that we would love to have stayed with this child. But because of reason A, B, C, D, we strongly believe that they should change environment, because probably in the environment where they will go, they'll be able to be remorseful and have an understanding. I've seen parents walking away crying, the child is crying and saying, Mommy, I'm sorry, we'll come through this. But the mother is saying, why did you have to take me through this in the first place? And you counsel the mother and say, it's okay, you can get another place, we can even help you to get another school, so that you settle. And some of them have settled and have reordered
their lives.
They have reordered their lives, really. So for me, I strongly believe all hope is not lost.
Yeah.
I have seen people who have moved from Uganda, they've gone to the US and they've failed to fit in those systems. And they have to come back home, right? And then they're struggling to get back on their feet. And for me, it is well. Many times, as parents, as teachers, let's have an understanding what environment works for this person. It is very difficult if you have been a tolerant parent and then you pick your child and put them in a system where it's zero, a structured system of zero tolerance. They'll be completely lost. So when we say charity begins at home, what rules have you set at home? I will give my own example. My children, I always tell them, if you misbehave at school and I'm coming to pick you with your belongings, I'm not just going to take you, but I will make sure they converge an assembly. I punish you at assembly and then we leave school.
Isn't that the punishment?
No, it's not.
The child is already punished.
Yes,
Again, you're punishing them.
That is my principle as a parent. So, my children now, because now they are grown, they would laugh at it and say, Mommy, I'll just think. Each time would be at assembly. I would just imagine I have done something, they have called you, and I'm standing in front there. And I will tell you that the worst thing that happens in school environment, that one bad thing that you did is what the world will remember about you.
Yeah.
Even when you change and become a better person, they'll still refer to the bad story.
Yeah.
So let's avoid the bad stories, because we can't avoid them. What have they told you to do? Wear a uniform on Sunday. Wear it. What's your problem? You're not going for a wedding. Even if you wear, it's just a cloth. So wear and go. So for me, it was very important to follow the rules. And rules have never been convenient. But those are the rules. When you go to Rome, you behave like the Romans.
Yeah.
But that begins at home. We should instill that at home and say, these are the expectations. When you come back, when we are growing up, our parents would tell us, if they expel you, don't come back home. Just proceed. Even if the en route is past home, you just proceed and you find a place where you can say with your indiscipline. You go to school saying, if ever I was expelled, I don't have any other place to go. So I'm just calling upon parents.
Yes.
And when we are beckoning on parents to collaborate, with schools, especially with the learners, it's talking about destiny. We should never do things that will alter the destiny of our children. Because realigning destiny comes at a very, very high cost. First of all, you lose time, you lose destiny helpers, you lose destiny provision. This child is coming back, is getting back into themselves when they fed with the pigs, when they have lost their dignity and honor, when they've lost their wealth. There is a lot that we lose if we do not teach our children, if we don't instruct them, if we don't keep the landmarks of our ancestors to ensure that our children move in the direction that speaks of destiny achievement.
Wow.
I just want to say one thing about that.
As we wind up.
Yes. Maybe we need to ask ourselves, do we ourselves have landmarks? Because sometimes when we struggle with schools and institutions, it is us who need the help more than our children.
Exactly.
So we need to ask ourselves, what is your plan? What is your landmark? Where are your boundaries? Do you have any? I want to remember very gently that there's a generation that grew up fatherless, motherless, war-torn areas, etc. There were those things, they happened. But we can't continue to wallow in the mud and say, oh, I had a lot of problems, so I don't. No, we must create landmarks on a daily. If God has given you a family, if God has given you children, whether they are born in or out of wedlock, whether you are a single parent or not, remember that God has entrusted you with children that you must nurture. nurture, bring them up, and present them at the throne that these are the children you gave me. If we don't create these boundaries for them, they will have nothing to follow after. You cannot begin to blame what happened to you on your children. You must erase, cut up and say, this brings the end to whatever did not come right for me. I must not allow my children to experience this. So, parents, create some landmarks. If there's nothing to follow before, create landmarks now that your children will be able to say, because I remember when I lost both my parents. In the last 5 years, I've lost both my parents. And at some point I looked and said, I am not obligated to anybody anymore. Because in my growing up years, even in my very adult years, every time I'd want to do, I'd feel like doing something mischievous. I'd say, what will mama say? What will my father, how will my father hear this? But when my parents passed, I kind of felt like, I'm not indebted to anybody. And that can be very dangerous. You don't want to create that kind of feeling for your children when you're even still alive. But because there are no systems around you, they feel like, my mother will support me when I'm disobedient. My father will take me to another school. After all, the money is there.
Wow. Thank you so much, Mrs. Gentoo. Thank you so much, Canon Alice. And to you, our viewer, thank you so much for watching it. I mean, if we had more time, we would have gone beyond this point, but it's unfortunate we can't. However, we have a lot more still to come. Edwin Olsen Mkalas is my name. I've worked with Andrew, I've worked with Norman, and very many other people out there who are making sure that you have this show in the comfort of your home or wherever you're watching us from. From the entire team, it's a good night. See you tomorrow.